Well, good morning, gang. My name's Ray. I'm with Team S.T.E.A.M, and today I'm here in Flash Industrial Painting, cleaning up the shop from this last rather lengthy project. The owner's going to be here within the hour to go ahead and pick this up. He's bringing a trailer. We're going to load it up and get it strapped down, and then he's going to take off with this and the remaining parts that he also has that have been stacked up throughout the job. Good morning. I do have my work cut out for me. Very odd. I was pretty impressed. I'm gonna do what I always do on these trucks. And that just happens to be my thing, by the way. This paint job's probably 5-6 years old. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. And here he is leaving. It wasn't quite as fun as I was expecting. And that starts right about now. This is a 2003, 50 plus foot, especially when it's unfolded, step deck heavy haul trailer. And this trailer comes to us from South Dakota, and it's been sitting here for a little bit. And we're gonna go ahead today and get it pulled out back here and get whatever sandblasting I'm gonna do done to it. I have to walk around it and see what exactly I am gonna do, form a game plan, and then just kind of start executing that game plan today. This trailer I know has been painted more than once, and I know now, I knew looking at that it's been painted poorly, that it was prepped poorly and probably painted poorly. So then I start looking around and I immediately notice stuff like this right here. Runs the size of pencils. Every place where there was a little cancer, they just sprayed the living crap out of it and just had runs. So, it just runs everywhere. And places where it was never smoothed back or prepped right. You know, you can see it was never prepped. So, at a glance, when this was in the driveway, I thought to myself, there's a chance we can just sand everything down and prep everything by hand and do it that way. But no, there is no chance. This has to come off here. This is garbage. So, and I got a hold of the owner and I asked him, do you want to do the underside of here while we're in here? Because, well, for one thing, it can use it, and for another thing, it's not too terrible. I mean, had this all been gobbed up with grease an inch thick on everything back here, I wouldn't have even offered because I didn't want to mess with all that shit. But it's pretty clean under here, so I went ahead and offered. And he said, yeah, for sure. The price would be higher, of course, but that's why I told him up front, and he said, sure. So we're going to go ahead, blast under here. I only have this down this far right now because I'm going to take all these lights out. Get all this stuff prepped, get the license plate off and all that stuff. Then when I go to actually do it, I'm going to raise this clear up in the air and then throw some tape around the cylinders themselves so they don't get any sandblasting damage. Then I'm going to blast all this down, get it all bare metal. This plating's all been replaced so I can use used sand on it because I don't have any paint to take off. I'm just abrading. Same with all the plating up front here. It's all new. We'll be getting up under here as well. You can see that needs it. Well, there's little Maggie. She's the most recent one we picked up from the Humane Society. They were having a lot of trouble because she could not get along with other cats. She was charging other cats, completely charging them non-stop, just a bit of a terror. So they had her locked in a room by herself. So then she became depressed and she got to where she wasn't eating or drinking or doing much at all, and that started to worry them. And they put a message out on Facebook saying that, you know, this cat's starting to decline because of the depression, because of the fact she can't be around other cats. And even though we have 100 cats, I said, yeah, well, we got a lot of tricks, we'll give her a try. And so we went and got her, and within 24 hours of getting her, she was out of the playpen. You remember that video where I showed you that she was in that playpen and all that stuff, and we were gonna integrate her. 24 hours after that, she was fully integrated and not charging cats anymore, growling at them. But we have a lot of cats here that don't like other cats. We just don't allow anybody to bully. We don't let cat fights go. We don't let them get out of hand. We don't let anybody be dominant. We just don't allow it. We're here all the time, so we can. And it becomes a peaceful environment for all the cats, and they all know it. And since they all know it, they all kind of settle in and agree to kind of get along for the most part. We have one or so cat scuffles a day, just scuffles where they're growling at each other or whatever, and then maybe 2 cat fights break out a month. So, I mean, for as many cats as we have, we handle it pretty well. And she integrated almost immediately. Within 3 or 4 days, she was lightly starting to play with other cats. And now she runs around with them all the time. She doesn't like them up in her face, but she runs around with other cats all the time. And she runs the property. Within 48 hours of that last video segment I showed you when she was in that playpen in the house, within 48 hours of then, she was outside enjoying herself. We never let cats outside that fast. But she proved to be so smart and so trustworthy that we just let her do it. She's got a really good head on her shoulders, and now she's getting along great. But anyway, while I'm busy getting all the reflective tape off of here and stuff, I'll be masking up some things like this. Stickers that I think would survive the masking process. And then these handles, that runs all the hydraulics and throughout the whole thing. That's how I raised this ramp up. We'll be doing the sides of the ramp too. And then we'll mask up anything else that needs any identification tags, things like this. We'll mask that up. Okay, well, now I've got it set up to where I can go ahead and get under the front and not have any risk of involving the truck. Plus, the truck was so far under there, I couldn't get everything I needed to anyway. It wouldn't have been a complete job. Now that I can get up under there, as you can see, like a lot of these, it needs the help. So we'll get all that blasted. Well, I spent the rest of my useful part of my day yesterday, well into the afternoon, getting this guy completely ready, getting all the lights pulled out, getting everything ready, getting all that reflective striping off of there, that tape off of there. And then down here, they had grip tape. So you could stand here and get up and down here throughout the years. And so they had that thick, sticky grip tape. And it's cemented in there. It took a long time. I actually had a 5-in-1 scraper and a hammer, just tapping that scraper all the way through this shit. It took hours. So I got all this... everything off here that I need to get off here, everything masked up that I want to get masked up. Now I'm going to go ahead and get suited up. And I just left this morning, first thing this morning, crack of dawn, went to a neighboring town to get another pallet of sand because I have about a quarter of a pallet or something left. And I know that's not going to be enough to do what I got to do here. This is going to be quite the chore. So I'll probably be blasting the bulk of the day. Well, all right, gang. That was pretty much exhausting. The afternoon's gone. Evening's setting in here. I only have about a half an hour before it gets good and dark, so I got to get my compressor shut down and get all my stuff picked up. I got a bunch of bags here. Some bags that I threw in here earlier. A bunch of bags over here. Well over half a pallet. Well over. I'm almost half a pallet right there, and I used a quarter to a third of a pallet out of here. That's all used up now. So I got all my blasting done that I think I need to get done. Even got down inside of these toolboxes. Got up under here. I already unmasked these. I took the duct tape off of these. That's why it's not on there. But as you can see, up under here, this all got blasted. Back here, same thing. Got all this new diamond plate blasted. But as I mentioned, I don't have much time left, so I got to get all my gear picked up, get this truck fired up, get it hooked up to this trailer, and get this trailer pulled in, so we don't get, because, I mean, from the looks of it, we could get rain about any time. I don't know if it's in the forecast, but I definitely don't need this thing to get rained on. So I'm going to get it hooked up to the truck and get it pulled in. Welcome back, gang. Well, it's the next day, and this morning I had some errands I needed to run, so I'm just now getting nestled back into the shop, and you and I are going to check out what's been done to the trailer so far here. Okay, we're underneath the back end here, and the cylinders are all masked up there. The airbags are masked up. If this was going to be a black trailer, I normally wouldn't worry about that, but since it's going to be a different color than that, we got to make sure we do the airbags. Wheels are masked up, they're aluminum, so they're not going to get any paint or anything. Got the center of the bed, all the wood, which is only a year or two old, I suppose, all masked up. We went ahead and remasked these and remarked the ones that they could read. Remasked this tag, of course. Now this here was rusted on the other side because the inside of the toolboxes are all rusty. And you can see some heavy flake rust. And this was right behind that circular plastic deal where they keep the registration information on a trailer. Looks just like that one, only it's out here. And a lot of times that'll happen with emblems or stuff like that, where it'll rust behind there and it'll rust heavy. So I'm going to go ahead and knock that scale off there, get inside of this toolbox and put a wire wheel, all this stuff, make sure it's all good and roughed up. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a fiberglass patch on there. And that fiberglass isn't meant to reinforce it structurally. When it comes to heavy steel and what it's expected to do to perform, fiberglass is no match, but it will always plug it and it'll stop it from continually rusting in that spot. And, you know, it'll just stop what's happening from happening. And so what we're going to tear into here with the second half of the day is we're going to go ahead and start sanding and scratching. And I mean, the whole thing has already been sandblasted except for that panel right there. And so when I say sanding and scratching, I just mean that we're going to take sanders and put them over this surface, because right now this surface feels like 80 grit sandpaper. We're going to go ahead and run sanders over everything. And like where the sander will come in here, but might not make it all the way through here, we'll come through here with sandpaper and just fill in anything that doesn't get hit with the sander. And by the time we're done sanding it, you'll be able to tell. You'll be able to just look at it and tell. You can see the texture difference, and you'll be able to tell what to hit with just a piece of sandpaper on your hand or on a little sanding block or however you do it. But that's how we do it. What we always do these. We get in all the details, even with even after having sandblasted it completely. Okay, we're getting some of this sanding done here. I'm going to get my mask on here in a second and grab my own sander and go to the other side. I'm hoping to get this all completely prepped here today, but we'll see how it goes. All right, we've got everything sanded, everything scratched, everything wiped down and blown off, and I turned the boys loose. Now I'm going to go through, I've got a few things I need to do. I need to put that fiberglass patch at the front there, and then I'm going to try and get some white primer on here today if I can. Good morning, gang. As you saw yesterday, I got the paint on this, and it had all night to cure in a shop that's almost 80 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead here this morning and get this masked up. The sides, the front, the top, since I went ahead and shot the top. Get all this masked up, get it all solid, and then I can begin the next step in the process. I'm still doing a little prep, but I will end up putting primer and paint on this today. I just cut away yesterday to make sure I could get this done, and I did, and that worked out good. And so today I'm going to go ahead and finish up that prep, get on the priming, and try and get this guy in white here today. And now I'm going to go ahead and get this tape off this fiberglass. As you can see, I mean, that's pretty darn level, actually. Okay, now that I have this all masked up, I'm going to go ahead and leave these two strips here until I get this lowered, because it's going to change the dimensions when I do lower it. So I'll wait till that happens before I mask that up. Another thing that I need to do here is I'm going to take, see these two machine screws. What that is that right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove those screws and remove that and prep behind there quick, just with a wire wheel or whatever I need to. And that way we can just shoot the whole thing, and then I'm going to put the one that was here I'm gonna go ahead and just put here through the same 2 screw holes. So the same 2 machine screws are gonna hold both of those on either side of this. And that way I can just grind these down and get this all prepped and do a little body work over that. Okay, and as you can see, I've got some body work back behind this. Even though it's behind this and you could never even see it, there was some cancer there. And it's not my obligation to take care of every little bit of cancer that's ever on any of these trailers or any of this stuff, but since I already had the body work out taking care of this, I got this all prepped with Rolock and went ahead and did it. And I just thought, since I've got the body work out, I might as well. And this is where both those emblems were. This is right where those Trail King emblems were. And I've seen this behind those emblems many times. So we'll smooth all that up, then we'll get it glazed, and then that'll be ready for primer as well. And another thing I'm going to do before I go ahead and start priming on this guy is I'm going to grind down. There's a lot of previous tail lights in there, and the screws have been broken off on quite a few occasions. And a lot of them are sticking out there. So I'm going to go ahead and get all those ground down. And then on put together day, I'll probably just rivet these with 3/16 rivets. That'd be a good way to do it, because it's not super easy to get to the backside of all of them, and they just rust anyway. So a nice aluminum rivet, whenever you want to drill it out, only take a few seconds. Much less time than it would take to get to the backside of that bolt, find out that it's, you know, frozen, and it breaks off both on the nut side and on the outside. And like it's done many times, that's what happens with rust. So a nice little aluminum rivet will be actually quicker and easier to remove the taillights next time, which is going to be quite a while since these seem to be brand new or close to it. Well, okay, about got everything ready to go. I got this ramp lowered, got that re-prepped, I had some overspray on it from when I shot the front of this. I got this remasked, and now I'm going to go ahead and blow everything off. And then once everything's good and blown off, I'm going to go ahead and start going over it basically with a fine-tooth comb. I'm going to have a piece of sandpaper with me in one hand and a tack rag in the other. Then I'll go ahead and begin the tutorial section of this video, which is about pressure pot usage and management. And in doing so, I'll show you, again, my primers, how I mix them up, my pressure pot, how it works, its settings, those sorts of things. And then I will show you how that I would use it in a situation like this. And then of course I'll go ahead and video the situation as well. All right, now I've got my pressure pot out, and I don't even know what brand this is, because when it comes time to buy a pressure pot, I want something that has decent ratings but not too high of a price tag, because you can spend $1,800 or more on a pressure pot. And I don't bother with that. Or, $200-300 is about where I'm at. And you'll pay more if you're getting it with in combination with all your gauges and all your fluid hose and your air hose and all that. If that's all one package, you will pay more, because those things are all worth something. But I don't. I just buy bare bones pressure pots, because I replace all these things so often that it doesn't really matter. And a lot of those fluid hose and air hose combinations come in just 25 foot that you buy with a pressure pot. They offer the whole thing as a bulk deal. You got to watch that, because if it's only 25 foot, that's not a very good stretch. And if you're not painting anything very big, then I guess it doesn't matter. But if you're getting it for the long haul or for a variety of projects, I run 50-foot hose and fluid hose and air hose alike on my pressure pots, because otherwise you're moving the pressure pot all the time. So first thing I'll do here is I'll just unwind this hose down there and then bring it back here. And at that point, I'll go ahead and attach the gun to the end. I keep the gun off of the end, because that just keeps everything out of harm's way. That, and I can put my gun in the gun washer. That's my pressure pot gun right there. And that's not how I necessarily keep it clean. I'll show you how I clean my pressure pot and my pressure pot gun by the time this is all said and done. But I do keep it in the gun washer. And I'll go ahead and string out my hoses, and then I'll go ahead and get it bolted back onto the gun. Okay, now when it comes to pressure pot guns, the one that I end up going with is the Binks 2100. Now when I did that tutorial video not long ago using the conventional gun, the siphon feed gun, I also showed that I have a Binks 2100, but they're not the same. You can't buy a Binks 2100 that is meant to be siphon feed and then just bolt it right on here and have it work. Pressure pot guns are different. One absolutely will not work with the other. They won't. You can bolt them up and try. They just won't work. So, and it's not that they won't work well. It's that they won't work at all. You'll know immediately something's wrong. So you've got to get a pressure pot gun for a pressure pot and a a siphon feed gun for your siphon feed cup. But they both just happen to be the 2100 Binks. I have a lot of parts for them. I have a lot of spare guns. I've used them for years. They're good for the price. You know, they're under $500 and they work well. As long as you keep them clean, they work well. So that's what I'm going with here today. And that's what I pretty much always go with. Like I said, I have a bunch of them. And now the pressure pot itself, the lid's always tied down with these four. They just open like that. And then down inside, a lot of guys will run pressure pot liners. Those almost always come in pink, and they're just a plastic liner that goes right down in your pressure pot. And the idea is that you do all your painting, all your paint work, all your stuff, and then when you're done, you just pull the liner out, throw the liner away, and you have a clean, ready to go pressure pot. The problem that I found is that, well, liners aren't cheap. So if you run a pressure pot as often as I do, that cost does add up. But more importantly, they don't really work. I've tried a few different brands and on a few occasions over the years, and 3 out of 4 of them will sit and leak into your pressure pot, and you don't know it. Now that's a problem. You've got this liner in here, and it turns out it's been leaking from the bottom. And so you have this layer in between the bottom of the liner and the pressure pot that you don't know about. So you've got you just got done with your primer, and then you went ahead and cleaned out your pressure pot, and you look down in there and you see a nice clean liner. Then you put your paint in on top of that, not knowing that beneath your liner is a little reservoir of primer that is now coming back up through the hole, seeping back up through the hole, and solidifying into hard little chunks, because wet primer and wet paint do not mix. And so it'll come up through the hole and solidify into hard little chunks. Pretty soon you got chunks of shit in your paint, and you don't know why. Well, it's because the primer is oozing up underneath through the hole that it went through, because 3 out of 4 of those things have holes in them. And when you pull them out of the package, they're thick and durable looking, those liners are, but they're not. They get holes in them almost immediately. 3 out of 4. I quit using them. It didn't take me long to figure out that they are just a waste of time. Then when you get your liner and you pull it up out of there, all you've got is just a giant mess under there that you got to clean up. So over the years, I just got to where I just run a solid pressure pot. No liners at all. I run it this way. I clean it this way. And as you can see, it is nice and clean. Ready to go. So I'll go ahead and get my primer mixed up. What I'm using today for primer is EPX 950. I use the 908, which is black on everything that's black, the white on everything that's white, and the beige on everything that's going to be yellow or orange or red, as you've seen on my videos. But today I'm going to be using the white primer, and I'm going to mix up a couple gallons of it. This is a 2.5 gallon pressure pot. And so anyway, I'm going to be taking this EPX 950 and I'm going to be mixing it 50-50 with EPX 901. This 901 mixes 50-50 with the 908 or the 950 or the 900. It is the catalyst, and you mix it 1-to-1. So I'll be mixing a gallon of this and a gallon of this in this pressure pot to start with. There's no reason to fill my 2.5 gallon pressure pot up to 2.5 gallons when I already know that this is going to take more than 3 gallons. So I might as well just make it easy on myself, mix up 2 gallons, nice and even, not have to worry about any special ratios. Just throw 2 gallons in there, mix it all up, shoot it. And then when it empties, I can step back and look at my project and decide, based on how much project I have left to shoot, about how much I should mix up for the second time around. Okay, now here's that primer. 2 full gallons mixed up. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and kick my exhaust fans on, kick my heaters on, and get to priming. And now when it comes to priming this, I'm going to have to be a little bit strategic, like I am every time I go to prime anything. Some of this stuff I want to prime with 2 good, heavy, separate coats, and some of it I just want to prime with 1 good coat. The reason I would go ahead and prime anything with 1 coat is oftentimes it's already painted, and so it doesn't matter that much. You just need to seal between the previously painted surface and the new one. I mean, that's using it as a sealer. But in this case, it's because, and more often than not, this is the case, because you can't get out on this twice. I paint such big things that oftentimes you get 1 shot to get out on it. And you have to be able to get out on it to get to the center and to be able to get to everything. So you get 1 shot to do that. You don't want to get up there and walk on tacky primer. You will see your footprints 100% no matter how clean your shoes are. So 1 good heavy coat will do it up there. Now the sides we'll get with 2 coats. Up under here we'll definitely get with 2 coats. Up under the back we'll definitely get with 2 coats. But the reason I have to have some strategy involved is because I want to be able to get the insides of the toolboxes here, or chain boxes or whatever they are, with 2 coats. So I'm going to prime in here first. I'm not going to prime up here yet. I'm going to prime inside of these 2 chain boxes first. Then once that's done, I'm going to leave the lids wide open, prime the inside, and then prime the underside of the lid and leave it wide open. Then I'm going to come under here and prime all this. Then once I'm all done priming all of that up under here, I'm going to start making my way down the sides. Once I've made my way down the sides far enough that I'm sure this is all set up and dry enough, I'm going to come back here. I'm going to reprime this, and then I'm going to close the doors, and I'm going to go get out of my bolt bin just a couple of little nuts. And I'm going to place one nut right here, just inside of here, about where my finger's at here, but on this surface. That way, when it closes, it just closes and lands right on that little nut, and you've got a space between here and here everywhere, all the way across, all the way around. That way you don't just have fresh primer on top of fresh primer. Then when you go to open it, you just have this big old mess, you know, that needs all kinds of work now. You got to sand it down and reprime it. I mean, you don't want to do that. So I'm just going to take a single little nut and put it right there on the second priming, and then close this door on it, and then I'm good to go. I can go ahead and finish priming up here, prime my second coat under here, prime my second coat on the back as far as I need to, and just keep going that way. Prime for a while, go back and get the other stuff with the second coat. Prime out ahead, go back and get the previous stuff with its second coat, and just make my way all the way to the end that way. And that way, when I'm all done, everything except for just basically the top here has 2 layers of primer, and we're ready to go. And then I can just give it an hour and a half or 2 hours and then get on the painting portion of it. Now, I run my pressure pots with a single stage regulator. A lot of them will have, you can have 2 regulators down here with 2 different gauges. I just run the simple setup with a single regulator, and this regulator it regulates the air pressure to the pressure pot. You still have full air pressure at the gun, which you regulate at the gun. Right there on the gun itself is where you regulate the air pressure that you're going to atomize your paint or primer with at the gun, and it still has full pressure. But here, when you plug it in, it regulates some of it out and sends it down through here into the pressure pot. And typically for thin materials like this primer is about slightly thicker than water, I'll run 10 to 15 pounds at the most. If you're shooting a small stream and lightly doing like a chassis or being careful, you'll want to run even less. So I'll run 10 to 15 pounds at the pot for this sort of thin material. If I'm shooting something very viscous and thick, especially if I'm going all out and I'm shooting a pattern that's a foot wide, I'll get as high as 25 pounds at the pot. They recommend never getting beyond 40. I'd never get anywhere near 40. I think it's got a 45 pound limit on it before the pot itself is in danger. I'm not sure. They always run those a bit low, so people will be careful, but I've never gone anywhere near that. 25 is about as high as I ever get, and that's when I'm running viscous material at a very high rate, which I would not suggest you do unless you know what you're doing with a spray gunner. You're just going to have a mess. But at any rate, for this stuff, I'm going to run a pattern, about 8 inches wide, and I'm going to put about 15 pounds at the pot. So when you go to plug this in, turn this in, so you can watch that go up. And we'll stop at about 10 or 15 pounds. And then at the gun, you can hear, this still has full air pressure. If you want more air pressure, this is the valve for that. This is what gives you more or less air pressure on almost all modern guns. It's down here right by the inlet. Right here, this adjusts your pattern. You can go with a pattern that's this wide or this wide or this wide or this wide, or even a foot wide, even 18 inches wide if you've got the fluid support. This will really put it out there if you want it to. And then this is your fluid amount. So if you want more fluid, you just back it out. I just keep it backed out almost all the way where it's about ready to just pop out of its threads, because I don't really run too much really light with my pressure pot setup. Once in a while I'll shoot a chassis with really light pressure, but outside of that, it's pretty much full out with this gun. So I keep this out, I keep this adjusted to whatever pattern I need to run. And this one, like I said, it's going to be about 8-10 inches wide. And then this, again, adjusts my air pressure itself.
Splice Originals. Original.
Well, good morning, gang. As you can see, it's the next day. Yesterday, I shot primer until well into the afternoon, and it was about half hour or so from being dark by the time I finished priming. And that's fine. I can always shoot in here if I need to, but I like having the skylights. And they make a heck of a difference, along with all my trillion candle power of my other lights. The skylights do make a difference. I prefer to shoot in the daytime if I can, and I'm not really overly pressured on this one, so that's exactly what I've done. Now here this morning, I'm gonna go ahead and walk around it, run a tack rag over it, make sure there aren't anything that, needs fixed or worked on, and then go ahead after that, mix up some white paint, and I'm gonna go ahead and get this trailer in white here this morning. Okay, at this point, I've got everything wiped down, everything's completely prepped and ready to go, and exhaust fans on, heaters on, we're ready. Now I'm gonna go ahead and mix up some paint, and the paint that I'll be using on this is the paint that I use on almost everything. It's called AUE 360. This is a factory pack right here. This is what's known as a factory pre-mix. So in other words, I buy it from the factory in this color white. It's the only color I do that with. I used to do it with black, but the black over the years started getting more and more translucent for some reason. So then I had to pick a number, an actual paint number of a real black, and get one that was good and solid, and that's what I had to do there. But with the white, I just get this factory version every single time. And the advantage to that is I'm 100% guaranteed it's the same color each and every time. 10 years from now, if I need to touch up something I painted, I can get that paint and it'll be 100% guaranteed it's gonna be the exact same color. And it's easier for the jobber, the people that mix up the paint, it's easier for everybody. And what I'll mix that with is this 1086, GXH 1086. And this mixes 4-to-1, so this full gallon goes to this full quart. And of course, if you needed a smaller amount, you put it in a cup and you do 4-to-1. In this particular case, I'm gonna start with a full gallon and a full quart because I used almost just short of 6 gallons of primer on this paint, or on this project yesterday. So, and that's not an extreme amount, but I mean, that's quite a few. So I already know I'm gonna be into quite a few gallons here. So what I'm gonna do is just mix them up a gallon at a time until it starts getting close. Once it starts getting close and the pressure pot runs out, then I'll decide about how much I need to finish out the job. But for now, we're gonna start with a full gallon. I'm gonna mix this with this, and then I'm going to thin it to taste with this thinner right here. Because by the time this and this are mixed up, they are thicker by far than corn syrup. I mean, they are thick. Basically, you can't shoot them, or you wouldn't want to. You'd have nothing but orange peel. So I'll thin it up to the point where I need it, and then I will start on this project. And when I do that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start up front here. So the first thing I'll do is the underside, just so we get all that overspray out of the way, get the job out of the way. If we do the top first, then we do the underside, you're gonna have all that overspray from the underside sprinkling down on the top and eventually looking like sandpaper. When it's all dry and cured out, you'll look across it and it'll look like sandpaper, look like somebody put threw a bunch of dirt in it. So you gotta be thoughtful about that. That's why I'm gonna do the underside first. Then I'm gonna come up here and do the top before I do the sides. Then once this top's done, then I'm gonna work my way around the sides. But as I mentioned, what I'm gonna do is it's gonna be compartmentalized like everything I do. I'm gonna shoot down this side after having shot the front entirely. I'll shoot down this side to about this point, right here where it narrows. That way, if there is any kind of dry spray issue, it'll be really hard to notice in that little spot. But there shouldn't be, but you always wanna hedge your bets. Then I'll get up on my ladder and get up here and shoot all this stuff. At least this side, right? I'll get up there, I'll shoot that. I'll shoot the back side of this steel and shoot all this to here. Then I'll stand over here and shoot the rest of this. Then I'll get under here and shoot this. Now, while I got all this wet, so we don't have dry spray issues, I'll come under here and I'll shoot this that I primed yesterday, all this stuff. Get it all shot. Then, once that's done, I'll come back here and I'll start on this. And I'll probably start on the top and then the sides and then do the underside last, because even though I do the underside first, if ever given a choice, I'm not really given a choice here. If I take the time to do the underside first here, I'm gonna have dry spray here when I go to do the top. Once you're started, you're going, you're on rails. So I'm gonna have to finish out the top. When I finish out the top, I'm gonna have to finish out the sides. When I finish out the sides, I'm gonna have to go underneath and finish this out. You can see I got it all primed. See how thick that is? The thicker your paint is, the more orange peel that you're gonna have, almost universally. But you do want some thickness because you want some mills there. You don't want to have to do 10 coats, especially on something like this that you can't get back up on twice. Once you've gone over it, you can't go dragging hoses back up over all that shit. Now, as you can see, we've doubled our batch, filled the pressure pot up almost all the way. The entire project's ready to go, paint's ready to go. Let's go ahead and get this guy done. And now I'll go ahead and take a second and spray around these to show you that when it comes to these tie downs, you can't just spray everything. You got to actually get back behind there. But if you get back behind there and shoot heavy, then shoot the ring heavy, then go over the whole thing, it's going to be covered in runs, just covered. So I'll show you how I do these. I lift them up and then I shoot underneath them lightly. See that? Then I shoot the bottom of it lightly. Then I let it down. Then I shoot the side of it lightly. Then the other side. Then when I reshoot everything around it, I don't shoot over this again, I shoot up to it. Just like that, and I'll do every single one of them like that. Okay, looks like we got all the paint on it. Now I'm gonna go ahead and clean the gun, and I'll show you how I clean a gun with a pressure pot. Now the first thing you wanna do is let the pressure off of the pressure pot without pointing it towards your project. So here I've got my relief valve right here. That's pointed out this way. I try not to point it towards a dusty set of shelves, and I try not to point it right towards the project. So we'll point it right down here. And then we'll kill the air to it. If your pressure pot doesn't come with one of these, install it. They are priceless. Now that that's done, we can undo all these. Now we're not taking the top off, we're just undoing these to get all the pressure out. No way this can sit and build pressure. Now we're going to plug it back in, believe it or not. Hear that? There's nothing but pressure escaping. All we're trying to do is run the gun at this point, not the pot. That's why we've relieved the pressure at the pot. And now here's where cleaning a pressure pot differs from cleaning almost any other piece of equipment you'll ever clean. What you do is you loosen this cap, the end tip, the spray tip, you loosen that almost all the way off, 2, 3, 4 turns. I mean, really loose. Not where it comes off, but really loose. Put a shop towel or something like that over your finger and put it right over the tip and then pull the trigger. And what that does is that takes everything that was gonna come out of the tip, and since there's no pressure at the pot, no pressure to push any material toward this gun, I'm not battling any material, there's no pressure, only pressure at the gun. So by loosening this tip and then putting your finger over it, what you're doing is you're driving all of that fluid back out of the gun and back into the pot. You are effectively emptying this 50-foot line. And as I do it, I'll point the camera towards the fluid line and you can watch it start to bounce when it's finally clear. In this case, it may not bounce at all or much because I actually used up all my paint. While I was under there, I used up all my paint in the pressure pot. That doesn't always happen. So it may not bounce because there may not be that much to go back through the lines, but in a lot of cases you can sit and watch it bounce, and then you wait about 10 to 15 seconds after it's done bouncing to try and make sure you got as much fluid back out of that line, you know, as you can get. See it bouncing a little bit? You probably won't see it bounce again, but it did bounce there for a second. That's just emptying the fluid out of the line. And I wait about another 10, 15 seconds after that, the whole time with the end completely clogged by my finger, by a finger that is covered by a paper towel. Just like that. Now you unplug it. Now we can take the top off. See, now in my pressure pot, I installed a little extension with little V's cut in it. See the little V's cut in it? That way it'll go all the way to the bottom of the pressure pot and pull paint. When you get your pressure pot, it'll come this far up off the bottom. And that means that you are guaranteed to waste about a quart of paint every time you use your pressure pot. And I hate that. So I put this on to get clear down to the bottom. And it's worked for years. I've done versions of these for decades. And as you can see here, there is not much paint left in there. Half a cup, maybe. That's not bad for a 50-foot line with a pressure pot. Remember, anytime you're gonna use a pressure pot, you're going to waste half a quart to a full quart of paint if you have a 50-foot line on there. That's how much you're just not gonna be able to use. So I only use a pressure pot when I know I need a pressure pot. And then I'm careful about how I divvy up my paint, about how I mix up my paint. I try not to waste if I can, but with a pressure pot, you're guaranteed a certain amount. And so now the very next thing we'll do is we'll get some rags and we'll wipe all of this out, get it all cleaned out. And then we'll get this cleaned off, and then we'll put about, between a quart and 2 quarts of thinner in here. Okay, now here I am over by my exhaust fans. They're still running. They pull a lot of air through them, and they siphon a lot of air in right beside them too. So what we'll do, we'll tighten this cap back up. Remember, we loosened it to get the paint to back out of the gun. Now we tightened it again so it's back where it's supposed to be. If you leave it loose and you try and run your pressure pot, it will not run. A loose cap is 100% guaranteed no fluid will come out the end. You absolutely have to have that screwed down again to get the pressure pot to act normal again. So now we've got it screwed down, we're gonna go ahead and get some thinner to come out of it. Now what I'll do typically is I'll run this for 5 to 10 full seconds, just like that. Then I'll start adjusting my stream. That way the thinner affects all of the internal components of the gun. I'll show you what I mean. Then I adjust it out to about where I'm gonna need it probably the next time I use the gun, probably. So I get my pattern out to about 6-8 inches again, and that's where I leave it. But then I'll run this another 10 seconds this way. Right outside, so I'm not getting any overspray or any thinner in the shop. Now what you'll do is the same thing that you'll do with your quart cup gun, your siphon feed gun or any other gun. Put your finger over the tip with a paper towel, pull the trigger for a few seconds, and then let go of the trigger until the paint comes back out. Because what you're doing is when you put your finger over the tip, you haven't loosened the tip. Remember you loosened the tip before to get the paint out? You're not doing that this time. You're just putting your finger over the tip, which is overriding the pressure at the pressure pot. And it is sending the fluid back toward the pressure pot just like before. Only it'll do it 10 times easier if you have the tip loosened. Only you can't loosen the tip for this step. You have to have it on tight. So put your finger over the end in a few second intervals, and I'll show you that too. And I'll do that 10 times, 10 full times. You'll see that I got the fluid to go back down through the gun, the thinner, to go back down through the gun, and then come slamming back into the gun. And then back out and retreat back out of the gun, and then come slamming back through the gun. That's what I'm trying to do. That's the cleaning motion. The sloshing of thinner back and forth is what cleans the inside of this gun. So now that I've done that 10 times, I'm gonna go ahead and run it another 10 to 15 seconds. And now that we've done that, what we'll do is we'll take the end from the fans here, clear across the shop where the pressure pot's at, and we'll do the same thing now that we're here. We'll let the pressure off here, and then we'll loosen these. We're not taking the top off because we still have our hoses completely full of thinner. So we're not taking the top off. We just relieved all the pressure again, plug this back in. Here. Then we'll loosen the tip again. Then we'll put our finger over the end again, and we'll push all the stuff back through the line again. I got my finger over it. Now watch this hose. And that's how you know that the last of your fluid is going through the hose. Once that happens, wait about another 10 to 15 seconds with your finger over the end with the tip of the gun loosened, and that will get most of that thinner back out of that line. Then you go ahead, take the cap off, wipe everything down, all the thinner out, get everything wiped all down for the next go around. And then once I'm completely done, either I'll take my gun and I'll put it down in a bucket of thinner that's at least half full. At least full enough to get up past this. Full enough to get up to at least here. But since I have a gun cleaner, like that's how I left it last night. Overnight, since I primed yesterday and I was just gonna paint today, that's how I left it. I left it in that can overnight. Didn't bother removing it and putting it in my gun cleaner. I just went ahead and left it in there with that half full of thinner all night. And that works fine too. You can't leave it like that for eternity. You do have to clean it within the next few days. But in this case, I'm done with it. So now I'm gonna remove this entirely and put it in my gun cleaner. Well, good morning, gang. As you saw yesterday, we got this guy in paint. Now, the first thing I've already done this morning is I've already walked around it and taken a really close look, making sure that there isn't anything that needs reshot or taken care of. Because if there is, I definitely don't want to have already unmasked it by that point. And I've already looked it over. It's already been basically greenlit. So now I'm going to go ahead and get everything unmasked from here and start putting it back together. Look at this little bitty nut on its side. And that's just, I mean, it's going to leave a little mark because it's on its side. So it's going to leave a little tiny mark. It's a little 1/4 inch nut. But that's better than anything else that would have happened. As you can see, it even keeps this far corner off. It doesn't have to be clear out here at the end. That's just where I happen to set that nut. But it even though it was clear out on the end, you can see it keeps this up off there. Had I just let that be in there in paint, I probably couldn't have even opened it today. I'd probably need to bang a chisel under it to break it loose. Seriously, it would have such a good hold. And then it would just be a mess of exchanged paint on either panel and ugh. So in order to do something like that, this is one way of doing it. And then I'll just take some white paint and I'll touch up that little bitty square there and the little bitty square on the underside of here. And we're good to go. Now up here, all we've got is a ID tag. And then I've already got marked which is which. The red is almost always on the right on trailers, almost always. And that's the case here too. And I'm going to be painting this red. I'm going to be painting this part blue. And I can go ahead and unmask these. I can unmask these hoses, which I just have wrapped in paper down to here, and I just have a pellet bag for my pellet stoves. I use pellet bags for any and everything that I can during this time of year. So sometimes they're used for masking things, and sometimes they're used for stuffing in holes, and I mean, whatever, you know, they're around this time of year, so I use them. And I'm gonna go ahead and get this stuff unmasked, get all the lights out, and get them put back in it. Now I've got those new lights that are gonna go in the back here. They're pretty new. I don't know how new they are, but I mean, they look pretty new that showed up in this, but none of the screws worked out. And as you can see, there were a bunch of screws previously broken off. You can see them just sticking out in there. And as I mentioned earlier, I was gonna come through and grind all those down, all those nubs sticking out, grind them all down with a grinder, and I did that. So they're all even. That's why you can hardly see them from the outside, but you can see them from in here. And I'm gonna basically line the lights up with some of these existing holes and drill the remaining holes, and then just put little 3/16 aluminum rivets through them. Because as I mentioned before, you'll be able to drill those out and get the lights off much easier and quicker than you would fighting some rusted out bolt. And then we'll go ahead and unmask the wheels here. And the reason I didn't pull any of these tires is because I don't pull tires anymore, really. I used to back in the day, clear back in the early days, but I don't really do it. I'm quite familiar with it. I used to do it for a living for a while. But I just am not interested in pulling off all those caps, wedging all those caps off of there, and pulling all those nuts. Sometimes they break the studs behind them, so then you might have that to deal with. I mean, sometimes they come off super slow and galled the threads, and then, I mean, anything can go wrong. I know, I've done hundreds and hundreds of them. So that's the biggest reason we just don't do it anymore. And on this trailer, it would have been a pain in the ass anyway, wedging them out from underneath the trailer, or taking them off when the airbags are as full as they can possibly be, and then having to fill them back up before we put them back on. I don't know. That's the whole reason we don't pull wheels and tires, though. And while I'm working right here, I'll go ahead and install this one on the inside and this one back on the outside. But only this time they're gonna be right across from each other through these two same holes. All right, now this box here was gonna contain the registration and any other pertinent information. And the one on the inside couldn't contain any number of things, wiring diagrams, that sort of thing. But either way, they're back where they're supposed to be. This one was up here, remember? But behind it had rusted a hole all the way through because of a combination of the rust that was accumulating inside the chain box or the toolbox here. And it just had a bunch of dirt packed up against the side that stayed wet for so long that it just annihilated the backside of this wall and the underside of this one. So I just moved the location entirely. As you can see, there's really no evidence that was ever there. Went ahead and fiberglassed it from the backside and took care of it. And now here we've just run 2 bolt holes that will of course bolt both of these up. So that works out good. Here's the inside one. And that's where that's gonna be. That's where it was before. And we also took care of that corrosion that was right back there, back behind there. It's completely gone. And also that corrosion that was right there, that was behind that Trail Team emblem. Zero evidence that was ever there. But again, I'll remind you, it was not my goal to get rid of all the cancer on this trailer. It's just I happened to have the bodywork stuff out, and those were right there. Might as well take care of them. They're almost at eye level. But, you know, all this cancer along here. See all this cancer? All this cancer. Look at that. I mean, had the owner said, no, this was my grandpa's favorite trailer and I want to really rebuild it and make it perfect, make it into something you could enter into a show, the price would have been much, much different. And so would the time frame. But that's never the case. Work trailers and work trucks are always that. When they leave here, they go straight back to work. And hopefully they last years and years and years while they're at work. Because, I mean, after all, that's why people bring their stuff from as many as 5, 6, 7, 8 states away to have me painted, is because they want it to hold up as long as possible. So here's how one of them turned out inside. Ready for round 2, I guess. Here's the other one. That's how that one turned out. Ready to hold chains and tools and boomers for a good many more years. All right, everything's pretty much ready to go. The last thing I think I need to do is just go ahead and take this bucket of lights and get them distributed and popped back in place. The license plate back on it and that sort of thing. Okay, I've got all my new holes drilled. A lot of them are the old holes. There's quite a few of them that were left behind that I verified that the light would work on the current pattern that was there and then just drilled them out. But there's quite a few new holes too. Done courtesy of my good old friend, nice and affordable automatic transmission fluid. Used it for 30 years as a cutting oil. Works awesome and is very available. Okay, all I got to do is install this last light on this side of the rear part of the ramp, and then it's done. It's done enough that I can go ahead and I've already got the truck fired up. I can go ahead and get this part folded under and get the ramp set down where it goes. That way that's more complete, because really what I just wanted to have the truck or have the trailer completely ready to go when they're ready to go. It's a weekend right now, and this belongs actually to a Kubota dealership in a neighboring state. So they won't be available to come get it till the first part of the week anyway. So when I know that they're on their way to come get this trailer, that's when I'll go ahead and get the truck hooked up and get everything all ready to go. That way they don't have to take it back to their place with paw prints all over it. Okay, here's the, I backed the truck under. I didn't hook it up, I just backed it under and got the PTO hooked up. Here's what it looks like with the freshly painted ramp up. Even got the front of it. I'll be putting that down here in just a second. And with the back still up, see, we got under here pretty darn good. Nice and clean. Double primed, double painted. After it was sandblasted, the cylinders were spared for every single step. They didn't see any sandblasting, any paint, any primer, anything. All 4 of these cylinders. Nice and clean under here, including back here on the underside. Well, gang, at this point I can go ahead and get the PTO disconnected and get the truck out of here and get the door closed, because other than the license plate, this one's just about done. Okay, so what I've done is I've just taken 3 of these bags that I get my pellets in, and I've just put chains in 2 of them. And the third one I put their boomers in. There's 3 boomers in there. And that way we can just transport them more easily. The rusty chains won't start working on the bottom of the toolbox immediately. They'll be easier to get in and out of there. If they so choose to leave those in the bags, they'll be less prone to getting involved with the moisture that just happens in the toolbox, and they won't be as prone to collecting dirt and therefore mud at a later date. And you'll be able to, like I said, get them in and out of there easier. So if they choose to leave them, they'll last probably quite a while in there. So we end up with the chains in one side and the boomers in the other. Well, we'll go ahead and get these toolbox lids closed up, walk around this guy, have us a look. Well, all right, gang. Here in front of us, we have a 2003 Trail King 50 to 55 foot trailer, step deck, heavy hauling trailer. And when it showed up here, it was covered in terrible paint decisions, and also covered in rust. So we went ahead and I sandblasted the entire thing, top to bottom, got the underside of the front, got the underside of the bed, the underside of the entire ramp, all unfolded and everything. And then brought it in the shop, got going on it, got everything sanded down to very smooth bare metal. Double coat epoxy prime, double coat paint, Masked off all the fairly new wood. This wood's probably only a year or two old at the most. Missed this because the ramp was up, but we prepped it, or I prepped it properly. And once I got the ramp back down, we were able to finish it out like everything else. Got their emblem back on in a way that is probably not going to sit and try and rot behind it in the future as much. Went ahead and, as you can tell, got good gloss on it. Shot behind every one of these. As you can see, they're just, everything is shot. Any one you pick up, they're not stuck to the thing. You can see there's no lines in it where they were stuck to it. There's no runs around them. There's no nothing like that. Any one of them you want to pick up. Thoroughly shot on the underside of these. I mean, everything's done. With no repercussions. There's no runs around them or anything like that. And that's why I showed you how you got to take the time to do each and every one and be patient, because your patience will pay off, because here I am today not fixing a bunch of runs and bullshit. Got the sides of the ramp painted, as you saw. Got everything back in it. Got back there prepped and painted. And of course, you know, we got the underside. We already saw that pretty thoroughly. Drilled all new holes and reattached the lights in a whole new way. Got the plate back on it. Good gloss all around, solid paint job all around. We masked up the airbags, as you can see. Up here. Got rid of that corrosion that was behind here. And there, we left a lot of corrosion. I mean, there's corrosion everywhere. But we were up here with the bodywork anyway, and that was just one little bit of corrosion out in the middle of an otherwise empty panel. I know why it was there, because there used to be a Trail King emblem there. Took this from that location, fixed the rust issue behind it, and put fiberglass patch on the inside of that chain box there. Moved this to the opposite side of the other one, so now they're mounted right across from each other. And then as we come underneath, you can see we've got good solid gloss everywhere. It was prepped all the way to bare metal, double primed, and double painted. The underside of the chain boxes got done. Everything under here got done. Up under all the ribs, back into all the corners, everything got done. While we were up here, we also went ahead and painted these in red and blue, just in spray paint, but they were prepped properly, so they'll be good to go for a long time. And then up here, we got good gloss. Not like good gloss is imperative on, you know, on any kind of expanded metal or anything industrial like this, but it's an indicator that we got a good solid coat, good solid paint job on there, the right amount of mils. All right, gang, there is nothing left to do on this one, but let the owner know that his trailer's ready, and then get my ass out of here for the rest of the day. Hey, if you like this video, take the time to hit the like button. That's gonna help me grow my channel. If you wanna see more of what goes on around here, check us out at Facebook at Flash Industrial Painting. If you wanna see more projects like this, or domestic auto body, or gardening, or art, or dirt moving, or any of the many, many things we end up doing around here, you might as well just go ahead and hit the subscribe button while you're at it, because, you know, we always got something going on. We'll see you guys around.